Before we move on to the next set of stages, there is something I do want to take care of. Specifically, I'm going to be doing some energy crystal grinding, and I'm going to be using 2 cyber elves. The specific cyber elves I'm using are these 2, Winky and Mippy. They give me a second health bar and increase the size of my health bar respectively. So it's gonna cut out, and then when I come back it'll be done, more or less. Okay, so now that we've done that, and you can see there my Z-Saber finally finished leveling up, so now I have the last ability, we can level up these 2 cyber elves and then use them. Would it be leveling up or evolving? I don't know. So as you can see, that one gave me a second health bar, and this one gave me a bigger health bar. So now we're moving on to Neo Arcadia, which these stages are kind of like, each individual stage is pretty much 2 smaller stages put together. They're all relatively long, and for this reason I'm likely only going to do one of them per video. I was never great at this section. Yeah, this initial part with the moving platforms is mostly fine, but once we get into a later part of the level, it does take me quite a while. So here we're switching to the Buster Shot and Shield Boomerang, because it makes this boss infinitely easier. Another thing that makes this boss easier is using the control preset that lets you fire your main and sub weapons independently of each other. So in this case, I can keep the Shield Boomerang up, and it only goes down for a second when I shoot. And there, my Buster maxed out. This particular, the final level of the Buster, depending on how you level it up. In my case, it was just, I can have 4 shots on screen at a time, which isn't going to be all that useful, but it's nice to have. And here's our first boss. This guy is weak to the Thunder Chip. He's not terribly difficult, but he can be slightly confusing if you decide not to use the Thunder Chip. He does get a lot harder. So now that we're done with that, we get to move on to the second half of the level. This part is where... this part always takes me a while. For starters, we have these disappearing blocks, which... you know, it's nice to see those outside of the classic series, but honestly, I'm just not a fan of them here. It would be a lot easier if you could wall jump on them, but you can't, so... yeah. And now that we're out of that section, we get to fight the second boss. This particular one is weak to the ice chip. And this guy actually shows up again in 0-2, which is interesting. Like most of the bosses, he's not terribly hard if you use the chip he's weak to and use charge slashes. And with that, we are done with the first Neo Arcadia stage. That's it from me. See you next time.